Good morning, foggers. Happy Tuesday morning on this weird weather, super windy, 40 mile an hour winds with cold weather. We're not used to that down here. So, hope you're staying dry and warm. Before I start, I want to say thank you to Nati's Custom Printing, her t shirts. I follow her. She's on there. It's her husband's also a law enforcement officer with us. So it's Leo owned and operated. She did a great job with our shirts. They'll be here soon. A lot of you have liked them. They're on the story, posted on the story. So hopefully that's just the beginning of some things we can do with her. And Bleeding Blue, these guys are ahead of the game. If you look at them, they really have some beautiful stuff, hats and all types of memorabilia, and it's all to help us and you, right? That's still out there working, okay? So those are two people that you should follow, and they are on our side. And you know, as we go on, I'm gonna start highlighting some businesses that have always been. We're not the flavor of the month. People that have always been with us, even when it wasn't a popular thing to do, right? So we have to keep an eye out for that, okay? Because you guys may become the flavor of the day or the flavor of the month, and we have to keep an eye on, be true to the people who have been true to us from the beginning. So today, I'm gonna deviate a little bit from the original plan that I had, and I'm still gonna do my main interview, but I keep getting DMs and texts from people. Hey, where did you get this name? Hey, what does that mean? Where did it come from? Right? So, you know, in the business of Hollywood and TV and stuff, they call these teasers. So I'm going to open the door briefly to a little part of my life, and I'm also going to do smaller videos to keep your attention, right? I know you guys are busy, you're at work, and you're doing things, you have family, so I'm super grateful that we're doing this, even though it's for us, right? So I'm going to be discussing on how I got the name 3AM Fog, right? So other things that I'm going to be discussing real quick are how I believe I got to where I got to with one of my addictions, alcohol, which is by far the worst. Okay, I'm going to talk about the death of my perfectly healthy appearing 12-year-old brother in the kitchen of our house. He just dropped dead, and how that shaped my entire life. No doubt that shaped my entire life. And how it changed my parents. And now that we're parents, we completely understand it. And if I had to go to the root cause that was of my dysfunction in my family and my upbringing, I would definitely attribute that a large percentage. But anyway, so I got last night Devil Dog Gardner, the Marine that I spoke to you about, who does horticulturing and planting and organics and raises all his vegetables as a way to decompress and de-stress. He was the last guy last night that was texting me like, hey, where did the name come from? And I explained it to him. He's like, wow, man, what a story, you know? So it gets a little tough, but this is a journey that I've decided to bring you guys on. And so this is just a very small part of my journey. So after the birth of my son, who I now know is absolutely the greatest gift God has ever given me and has kept me alive, I started to drink. And now looking back, you know, I was the single guy going out with my friends, going to the club, the famous Club Cameo. And when I did drink with them, it got really, I drank a lot, right? And I would look back and think like to myself, like, no, I'm just, you know, I'm a young guy and I'm a cop and I have money and I'm living at my parents' house. But now looking back after everything, that was the very beginning of my downfall, right? Of one of my worst addictions. So again, this is just a very small snippet of what I will reveal in my major interview. Anyway, so I got to the point where I started drinking more and more and more, right? This was probably like 3 years that I was drinking. And the message that I want to give to you guys that's very important is I kept it functional, right? I remember, telling my wife that, alcohol became my girlfriend, right? And my preferred girlfriend, my side chick, because she was always there. She always made me feel good, and she never said no to me. Think about that, right? The perfect girl, okay? And I would protect her. I protected the bottle just like you would a girlfriend, right? Or your wife or whatever. So I became totally functional. I would go to weddings, right? Gatherings, parties, football games, barbecues, whatever, and I wouldn't even have one drink. And I would wait to get home, and when the baby and my wife would go to sleep, it was time to play. And I'll be honest with you, in this profession, people talk about spiritual warfare. It absolutely exists, right? So, you get involved in shootings, death of children, accidents, just the natural stress of everyday life. And then you come home and, the baby is a baby, goes to sleep. The wife is exhausted from taking care of the baby, goes to sleep. And then what do? Well, we call it the boogeyman, right? The enemy, right? The darkness. He comes and he wants to play, and I would drink every single night until I would black out. Okay, and after that, I don't know what happened. It got to the point that I ended up living my life through receipts. I would add up receipts, and yes, shamefully, I would drive like that, and I did all kinds of stuff that I had no idea that I was doing, right? So I would add up all these receipts to find out where I went, what time. I would look at the receipts. I had no idea what I was doing. I would call and text people in the middle of the night, all kinds of gibberish, okay? And it gets embarrassing. And what happens there is you start to develop shame, okay? And shame and envy and jealousy and all those type of negative things, they come from darkness, and you always want to stay in the light. And yeah, as first responders that have trauma, sometimes we feel comfortable in that darkness, okay? That's just a reality of it, because we're comfortable in chaos, right? We find comfort in chaos. Remember, I told you that in one of the first videos. If you ever want to see an officer get really uncomfortable and freak out, have him sit down and tell you how he feels. Okay? That's how fucked up we are at times. But it's okay. It's all right. So I would drink till I black out and numb the pain and forget things. And the enemy would visit me. I was running with the enemy, man. Like a lot of you are, And I was functional. I was a shift commander for several years. I was very good at my job. I never drank on duty in uniform when I was armed. But at nighttime I would, right? And so where you get and you develop this shame is we do everything. Like I told you, there's nothing that you can throw at officers that are well-trained, especially a senior officer with experience. There is nothing. You get dispatched to a plane crash, you know what to do, right? It's this, an accident with a bus, a tractor trailer, a fire. We know what to do, right? So getting back on that, I would just drink and drink and drink. Well, at first I knew that I was drinking hard liquor, even though I didn't like the taste. And I started to get really aggressive, real belligerent. So what happened? To protect my girlfriend, what would I do? I switched to wine, okay? And I ended up drinking 3 bottles of wine a night, okay? And it got to the point before I even opened the bottle, I could already taste the liquor. I could feel the chemical response in my body, okay? So you asked me, how do I get the name 3 a.m. Fog, okay? Regardless of how much I drank, I could have stopped drinking and I would never know at the time, but I could have stopped drinking at 1 a.m. and completely pass out, broken glass, broken bottle, right? And every single night at 3 a.m, , 3 a.m, 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 God would wake me up, and there was a mirror on the side of my bed, and I would sit up, unknown how I would do that, and I would look myself in the mirror. He would force me to do that every single night. Not once in a while, every single night. And as you can imagine, with so much alcohol ripping through my body, I would look in the mirror and everything was foggy, right? I couldn't even barely see myself. And every night he would do that. And it took me a while to realize, like, what the fuck, man, you know? What's going on here? And I realized quickly that there was something else bigger than me going on. And the fog in general was my day, how it started, right? I would get in the shower, my head felt like a beach ball, and I would swear to myself that that was the last day. This ain't ever gonna happen, right? I'm the guy with the gun on my hip. I'm the guy that makes command decisions, right? At that point, I was a sergeant. I was a senior sergeant on the department, and I knew what to do. I was in charge, right? And remember that, because that's gonna be a key factor later. I was in charge. I ran the show. And I would go to work and I would handle police shootings and all the, anything that happened in the county. If you're the shift commander, you handle all kinds of stuff, make decisions, or talking to the director, constantly talking to the mayor, the chief of staff, constantly, right? Making sound decisions, swearing all day I wasn't gonna drink. And around 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, I would start looking and glancing over at the clock. And I would start to get that little, well, listen, I'm not gonna drink as much as I did last night. Because I got this. I got this shit. I got this. I run the show. I'm in charge. And then as the shift went on and it got a little later and it was an hour before my transfer time, I was gonna go home, I started to think, okay, Publix liquor closes at 10. Winn-Dixie is open all night, right? And then I would play that game. And then I would shamefully get in the car like an addict and go. But what would I do so I wasn't recognized? I would go to different places to buy liquor, different supermarkets. You know, I would buy like 2 or 3 bottles of wine and 2 or 3 steaks, right? So I didn't look like the drunk. I was gonna have like a gathering or something. And I would just put the steaks in the refrigerator and drink the liquor. And I remember people telling me, man, you look good. You're dropping weight. You look so thin. And the reason I was starting to look so thin, I didn't want to drink because I didn't want anybody interfering my relationship with my girlfriend, the bottle. Okay? She was important to me. And I wasn't going to ruin that relationship with anybody. I wanted to feel, right, the buzz, what we call in Spanish, la nota, right? So I wouldn't eat. I would basically eat like something fatty, like a hamburger or something in the middle of the day, just so I knew I had all those hours to break everything down, and I wanted to have empty stomach. So the minute that liquor entered my mouth, it was time. Here we go. And every night I did that. Okay, and it got extremely bad, and to the point that I just lost control. And you asked me, like on my logo, this is real funny. The 3 a.m. fog is because at 3 o'clock in the morning, Jesus would wake me up and I'd have to look in the mirror. So when I send that logo, I was making a bunch of logos and I send it to a friend of mine. He goes, yeah, I like that one with the window. And I'm like, shit, bro. You know, it's not a window, it's a mirror. And I was so, disenchanted. And then I sat back and God spoke to me. And he said, that mirror, you were looking at your reflection, but I wanted you to see the world that is out there. So after a lot of soul searching, that world is you guys. There's a lot of hurt in the world. And like I told you about that story, the guy in the hole who jumps in, remember? And he says, follow me, I've been in that hole, I know the way out. I know the way out. I'll tell you and I'll share with you 100% honest what worked for me and the truth. You have to be ready to hear it. Not everybody wants to hear it. I didn't want to hear it for a long time. If you came with that shit to me, I would have looked the other way. I had to search myself for the answers, and I found it. And I found it. And I'll share those answers with you. But you gotta be ready. You gotta be ready. You can't do it for the wife, the boyfriend, the husband, the kids. That's bullshit. When you say to yourself, I need to do this for me to be better for them, then you're ready. And for me, it was rock bottom. It was when I knelt down October 9th, 13 years ago, and I told God, if you're really who you say you are, I need you to fix me. I can't do this anymore, and I'm not gonna do it anymore. Right? And we talked about suicide the other day. The scariest time in my life, I worked canine. I hunted for homicide subjects. I loved that shit. And I've never had a scarier time in my life than when I was addicted to alcohol. So if you're out there and you want to talk to somebody that knows, call me, text me, whatever you need. We'll talk on the phone. We'll meet at a coffee place, whatever you want. I know what you're going through, and it fucking sucks. So that is just a little snippet of how I got the 3 a.m. fog. Every day I was forced to look at myself in the mirror, right? And I suffered shame every day, which is horrible. And God told me, hey man, don't be so hard on yourself. I got this shit, as long as you let me do it. And that's my message to you. When you're ready, He'll be there for you. And we'll be here for you too. Why? Because we've been there. I know the way out of the hole. Okay, and this is just a small snippet. I'll cover my brother's death and how that shaped my life and a lot of dysfunction. All right, that's just a little piece, man. And I hope that this brings you some comfort that you're not alone. You're not alone. For a long time, I thought, man, I'm not saying shit to nobody. I'm like a genetic freak, right? When I give talks to men's group, I introduce myself JC the Monster. So you're not alone, okay? Have a dry, warm Tuesday, and I wish you nothing but peace in your heart. And remember to take out the garbage, okay? Don't take shit from anybody. Work on yourself and love yourself. It's just the beginning, man. 3 a.m. fog. Have a good day.